We finished the last episode with a second-hand account from the son of a Taninger fisherman who claimed he saw the Isdal woman in the presence of a man in military garb at a location associated with the testing of the new Penguin missile system. Accounts like these have led many to believe she was a spy, and this in some way led to her demise. We will look into this further today, but first we will continue to look at some possible encounters people had with this secretive and elusive woman. From the descriptions we know to be true, she always claimed to be Belgian. She spoke English, but it was of a poor standard. Many heard her speak French, Flemish and German, and she was seen speaking the last of the 3 identified languages with an unknown man. When providing details, she said she was a travelling saleswoman or antiques dealer. She also possessed a sophisticated and assured quality that stood out to people who came across her. When speculating on where she might be from, some said she looked Slavic, others Middle Eastern, others Southern European or Oriental. When at hotels, she frequently asked to change rooms and also moved furniture out into hallways or into wardrobes in a possible attempt to make space in her room. During questions about her mannerisms, one staff member recollects she seemed, and I quote, afraid when opening the door. Many remark on a scent described by some as spicy. Others have said it was garlic. But let's get back to the possible encounters that have arisen during the years. In the city of Oppdal, located close to Trondheim, the Isdal woman may have met an Italian photographer by the name of Giovanni Trimboli. The winter scene postcard found in the Isdal woman's suitcase had on it a photograph taken by Trimboli. During the police inquiry, he confirmed that he had given it to her after offering to take her for dinner. The subsequent version of his interactions with her are very different from those given by others. Rather than being standoffish, Trimboli says that he took her on a road trip. She told him she was South African, earned her living as an antiques dealer, and had 6 months to explore the Norwegian nation. Others remember a woman that fits the Isdal woman's description in the company of Trimboli. He was attending a business meeting and she sat waiting in his car for a period of 2 hours. This sighting took place on October 2nd in Oslo. Trimboli told his business partner that the girl was a wealthy Chinese student on her way to Stockholm. Later that day, he arrived in Trondheim alone. The woman would arrive in Oppdal from Oslo the next day. Eyewitness accounts suggest she spent a large part of the day in the town square, waiting for someone's arrival. Trimboli did meet her at 4 p.m, according to these witnesses. The meeting is said to have looked as if it was scheduled. That evening, the woman Trimboli met dined with him in the company of a hotel manager, where she once again claimed she was Chinese and living in South Africa. When police interviewed Trimboli in 1971, he told them that he had met the woman during a chance encounter in Oppdal. She had then taken a lift to Oslo with him before heading to Stockholm. From reports, his story changes. In the second version, he drove the woman all the way to Stockholm. When there, they both took a trip to Helsinki before returning to Stockholm. On being given the name of this woman, they contacted South African authorities. They confirmed she was alive and well. One might say, case closed. But there are some questions that remain unanswered to this day. For example, while under questioning, Trimboli told police she was a student. He also told them she lived in Johannesburg. She didn't. Strangely, it's not noted if the police ever attempted to ascertain whether she had ever been to Norway at all. Many have considered the account given by Trimboli to be nothing more than a fictitious alibi, and one item appears to support this belief, namely the postcard found in the Isdal woman's suitcase. It was not for sale in shops as it was a Christmas scene, the photographer was Trimboli, and the serial number matched those the hotel manager had given the woman he remembers seeing when with her and the photographer. A more recent witness has come forward in 2019. We weren't going to cover his story, but for a picture he provided, which he says might well be the Istal woman. Here is a rendering of his encounters with the woman. He met her in the German-French border town of Forbach in the summer months not yet accounted for. The man says he was 22 at the time and believed her to be 4 to 5 years older than himself. Conversation with the woman was anything but personal. She veered from any discussion of her upbringing, present life, or her future ambitions. Interestingly, the topics he said they did discuss dovetail with one of the occupations given in the hotel cards Istal woman filled out, antiques dealer. They involved discussions of paintings and art. This is the description of her gave to the newspaper Republicain Lorraine, and I quote, "I met a woman in a bar in the mining town in the summer of 1970. We saw each other for 2-3 weeks. She said she was passing through, a tourist who was staying with friends. She was the one who told me where and at what time we would see each other. She had a Balkan accent. The woman, whose name I unfortunately forgot, spoke several languages. Her German was almost perfect, her French more academic." Many have challenged the legitimacy of the account for a range of reasons. All the details given are, for the most part, documented in coverage of the case. Her age seems off with regard to tests carried out on some of the remains of the Istal woman, though this may not be a good enough reason to dismiss the claims out of hand, as other experts have raised questions about the determinations provided in the report regarding her age. We also have similar descriptions of the woman coming from a range of different people who saw her in subsequent months. However, what gains people's attention is the previously mentioned photo which he took from the woman as a memento of their brief liaison. Here is that photo. During her stay at the Hotel Hordeheimen from November 19th to the 23rd, her last place of residence, staff describe her as anxious and appearing to be on the lookout. On this occasion, she moved an armchair out into the hallway, keeping to her routine. On her last day at the hotel, a witness came forward and told how they had seen the woman exchanging currencies with a man. This was before she had left the hotel. When leaving the hotel, she got into a taxi. The taxi driver came forward 21 years later in 1991 and said that another man was picked up on the way to the train station where she left her suitcases. About an hour and a half later, smoke was seen in the vicinity of the Isdalen Valley where her body was found. Nobody knows for sure if this was connected, but there is a distinct possibility, so let's look at the sightings. The first comes on the 19th of November, and it's in the Isdalen Valley on the day that we know the Istal woman checked into her last hotel. They described her as having an arrogant demeanour, believed she was between 23 and 30 and looked to be Mediterranean. On the 21st, a young man also came into contact with a woman who fits the descriptions given. She asked him for vino. A hiker who cannot give a definitive date says that he passed by a woman who fit the description. Once he had passed her, he did see her again. The man also remembers passing a van with 2 men inside. The date given is between the 21st and the 29th of November. A bus driver stated he dropped a woman fitting the Istal woman's description off at the Isdalen Valley. However, he cannot give an accurate date for the sighting. He only states that it happened between the 15th and the 25th of November. A woman who lived in an area overlooking the Isdalen Valley was looking out her bathroom window at midnight when she noticed what was either fog or smoke coming from the area. Smoke was also seen by an army employee, but it was at 12 PM on the 23rd. A cyclist also noticed it at approximately the same time. So we have varied reports of smoke. The earlier sightings do correspond with the date she may have reached the area in question. Other people came forward to report having seen people in the vicinity. A jogger said he saw 2 people in the valley on the day in question. They were said to have been speaking a foreign language. A firefighter who was driving in the valley at 11:50 saw a man between 30 and 40 years old leaving the area. What police were able to determine from all this information was that the woman had left the hotel at 10:30 am, gone to the train station and then made her way to Isdalen. There is reports of smoke, but naturally we cannot say whether they were coming from the fire which scorched the woman's body. The pathologist stated that she had died between the 23rd and 26th of November. From police reports, it seems far more likely she died on the 23rd. We have corroborating statements from a number of witnesses who saw smoke. We also have accounts of people who may have seen her. There's no other period in the week where there's a coalescing of testimonies. However, though they were able to build up an idea of when she died, it led no further than this. A month later, on the 22nd of December, police held a press conference stating that the most likely cause of death was suicide. They also dismissed claims she was a spy. In later years, with the release of files, we know that they hadn't ruled out the idea she was working with an intelligence agency. It appears they wanted to shelf the case. Whether this was an internal police decision or they were ordered to do so from people in power has been a bone of contention for the past 50 years. Karl Halvaras, who worked on the case, told BBC journalists that, and I quote, "Very few thought it was a suicide." Before we look at what happened to the Isdal woman, let's take a closer look at some of the theories about who she might be. DNA and isotope tests were carried out on her lower jaw. The results indicate she was of European heritage. According to findings, she spent a significant amount of time in central Germany, the Balkan region, or a tiny portion of Spain. The evidence suggests she relocated between early childhood and adolescence, and it's been hypothesised that she may have been a part of the large-scale migrations that occurred during World War II. The French-German border area and the Luxembourg-Belgium area are the most active hotspots, with another hotspot above North Wales. The podcast Death in Ice Valley combined this information with other factors known about the woman, such as the fact that her dental work is not from the United Kingdom, but rather from Germany or Eastern Europe, and the fact that she spoke poor English, indicating that Wales is unlikely. C14 testing revealed that she was 45 years old, which came as a shock to the team who discovered the results. She appeared to be much younger than she was. After all, she was passing herself off as 27 to 30 years old. This revelation adds to the complexity of the case. Why would she lie about her age if she was a spy? It's fine if she's a year older or younger than she actually was, but we're talking about a 15-year disparity at the very least. A study of handwriting led graphology experts to conclude she was educated in France. Another feature of the case that is odd is the men she was seen with. After all, we know nothing about her, and they could have provided details that may have brought more clarity. Police attempted to contact them during their investigations, but they have never been accounted for. One has to ask, if it was a suicide, why didn't these men come forward? Was she possibly a sex worker? If the men were married, this would explain any apprehension they may have felt about coming forward. It's been said that some of the hotels were, quote, Christian hotels where alcohol was not available. The hotel she stayed in for 9 days in Stavanger was one of these. Why would a sex worker seek out hotels like this? Business-wise, it doesn't make much sense. If she was plying this trade, surely there would have been more people seeing her in the company of men, but they didn't. She spent most of her time holed up in her room. If she wasn't a sex worker, maybe she was a criminal. In next week's video, we're going to assess the possibilities and provide a theory as to what happened to her. Until then, as always, take care.